ahead and start recording this. That way I don't forget. So has anybody tried to work with that Google Sketchup to try to build either the step stool or the bar stool for the woodworking project?
No.
Okay. Have we maybe thought about it and maybe just kind of either put it to the side, or maybe you're just like, no, I don't really want to do that at all. What are our thoughts on that?
The hard part for me is how you say doing the angles for the steps.
Well, guess what?
The
I'm going to show you how to do that then today.
Okay.
Because there was some information that's on there, that's not there. If you watch, so this week we had some videos to kind of watch on I did like a Barstool build. And in that Barstool build, there's, some different things that I kind of show you on how to do that. How we do the legs and how we do that, is in that video. So if you haven't watched that, make sure you do watch that, because that's going to help you out. But other than that, it is a little bit different in Google SketchUp. So I'm going to help you guys with that. Make sure that we get those things done. And but yeah, I'll just kind of run through and kind of show you a couple of things. Yeah, we'll go from there. If you guys have questions or anything like that, just stop me, as we're going through it. But we'll just try to, go through and help anybody out that maybe needs those things. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. There, and there. All right. So in reality, the bar stool and the step stool, they're really the same projects. There's some slight differences. The measurements, the outcomes, and what we're looking at, is going to be different. But there's a lot of similar things that we need to do on both of those projects. So I'm just going to kind of work with the bar stool here. I did the step stool yesterday. But I'll kind of record both of these things and I'll put them on Canvas, so that way you guys can kind of reference back to these. If I go a little bit fast, or if you forget, a concept or whatever, you have that video right there that you can kind of look at. And a lot of this stuff, what I'm going to kind of do, I'm not necessarily going to go through like back and forth with this and show you every single dimension. I might just tell you some of the dimensions. I will have this thing kind of pulled up on my screen. You can do the same thing. But more what I'm concerned with is how we actually, orient it in the program. You need to have the dimensions. They need to be right. They need to be accurate and all that kind of stuff. That's not, obviously that's how we should do it. But there's a lot of different pieces, and you can see we've got these. I don't really care to have these pieces separated out. I don't care to have all of the dimensions or anything like that in there. The biggest thing that I'm concerned with really is I want you guys to be able to design and have a project that looks similar to this, right? This is going to be the bar stool. If you decide to do the bar stool, if you decide to do the step stool, same thing. Just give me the project that's all together. I don't need these things in parts and pieces and stuff like that. We don't need to go through all that extra work. My biggest thing is you designing it and making it in a three-dimensional program there. So you don't have to have all the words, all that other stuff. Maybe give me a couple dimensions on here, so that way we can verify the seat and all that kind of stuff are accurate. But anyway, probably the first thing that we should start with is probably our legs. And there's a couple things on here. And when we do this in real life, when we actually build this thing, we actually make these legs a little bit longer. We actually cut them at 25 inches. So we go 2 5/8 and 25 inches there. And that's because when we cut that angle, it makes it a little bit shorter. If you look at this leg right here, this is the leg on the angle. That leg should be 2 feet or 24 inches. So we're actually cutting it an inch higher or an inch bigger, so that way we can account for the loss of material that we have when we cut that angle out. And I'll kind of show you that. We'll jump into Google SketchUp and I'll show you that. Come on, get off of my stuff. So probably one of the easiest things to do, and this is some stuff that you can't necessarily do in real life, but we can on the computer. And my stuff does not want to work. Okay, we're going to grab this orbit tool here. We're just going to kind of orient ourselves around. So we can kind of click and hold it and go wherever we want. If we're on that orbit tool, we can hold shift, and then we'll get that little hand thing. What we're going to do is we're just going to build a rectangle. We're going to build it straight up and down. And the nice thing about this is with this Barstool project, and I don't know that one is more difficult than the other one, but with the Barstool project, it's nice because you have 4 legs. There's a lot of little work that goes into those legs, but all 4 of those legs are identical to each other. So once you get one leg built, you can copy and paste it, and then you've got 4 legs. There are really 7 pieces that we need to build, 7 pieces that we need to, put together on. I think on both of these projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 4, 5, 6, 7. Step Stool's got 7 too. So both of these projects have seven pieces that we're really kind of focusing on putting together. And so 4 of these, or 3 of them, you don't really have to make, right? So there's really only four different pieces that you're trying to create, and then we just got to put them together. We're going to kind of just zoom in. I'm using the little roller ball on my mouse to kind of zoom in. You can kind of sort of see that. It's a little bit hard right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab a rectangle, and we're going to stretch this rectangle up in kind of this direction here. And we want our rectangle on these things, we want it to be 2 5/8 of an inch. And you'll notice that if you look down at the bottom there, this skinnier side, we want that to be 2 5/8 right here. And that's that second number in this case. If you look down at the dimensions down here, you can kind of see that. If I wanted it to go like this way and make that longer and shorter, then I would type in my shorter number first. But in this case, we want it to be kind of like this. It looks about the size that we want. And we want 25 inches. So we're going to go 25, comma, 2. You got to space this 5/8. So that's 2 5/8 of an inch. You'll notice there we've got this thing. If I hit the H button, it's going to give me my hand feature. And I'm going to be able to just kind of zoom around. Again, using my roller ball to kind of do that, I can get the orbit function, or I can just click it down here. I hit O. The quick, links are really nice when you're building these things. Now we could leave this right now. This is a 2-dimensional little, leg that we have here. We could leave it like this, and we can do all the kind of layout stuff on just this 2-dimensional and then bring it out. Or make it 3-dimensional, or we can just make it 3-dimensional now, do the things, and then take it away. It doesn't matter which way you do that. I think for me, I would prefer to probably almost just do no, this thing, I think this one it's probably easier on this one to extend it out, because we got to do a little tenon on the top part of this. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring this thing out. Now, these boards are all 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to go 3/4. That's going to give us 3/4 of an inch. As we do that push-pull, we can hit enter. I'm going to get my orbit tool again. You'll notice now that we've got some thickness. So this is the thickness of the board here. So if we were cutting this out, if this was in person, this is essentially the same process that we would do. Now, on the leg angles say that they are where is it at? It is a 212. And if you've watched the videos on the woodworking, on the actual build for this project here, that leg angle has to do with how we lay out rafters for like house. So like the roof structures for a house, how we lay those things out. And the way we do that is by taking a framing square, which is, a big thing. It's got, 18 inches on one side, 2 feet on the other side. We take those framing squares, right? It does have a 90-degree in the middle of it. And then what we do is we actually plot points on there. And I'm not going to explain it too much because I do explain it in the video. But essentially, it's a rise over run. It's saying for every 12 inches that we go, we're going to raise up 4 inches. And then we can orient that framing square, and then we can actually get an angle out of that. So if you watch that video, there are some questions on that. So you probably do want to watch that video so you can answer the questions. Basically, it kind of gives you the angle that stuff's going to be at. Now, if you are doing this bar stool, a 212 is roughly about a 10-degree angle. And so that's kind of what we're going to kind of focus on right now, is just giving ourselves a 10-degree angle. If you want to do the step stool, the angle is about a 15-degree angle. It's not 100% perfect, but it's close enough for what we need to do and kind of what I'm focusing on. So that's essentially what we're going to work with. This is the bar stool. We're going to work with a 10-degree angle, and I'm going to show you how we can actually input that 10-degree angle into here. So if we go to this little tape measure tool right here, We've got a bunch of different selections here. We've got the protractor. That's right there. If we select that protractor, what we can do is we can click down, on the bottom corner. Doesn't matter really which one. I'm going to zoom in on this. And I'm going to click on the other side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this up, and you're going to notice that this thing has an angle. Now, I can't put that 412 into here, but I can put that 10 degree in there. And so if I just type in 10, it's going to put this thing at 10 degrees. It's going to mark it. It's going to make it just like a little tape measure line. Now, what I can do right here, I can hit my little line tool. I can hit L, or I can grab the little pencil up there. Same difference no matter how we look at it. I want to make sure I go to that intersection point. I'm going to click it. I'm going to go down to this bottom corner. I'm going to click that. And then I could take my push pull. And this is kind of where it's like you could do these lines first and then extend this out, or you can do it like I did doing here, where I'm just kind of pushing it all the way back. And I just click that. And you'll notice how that kind of just gets rid of that bottom. And now we have just that very slight angle there. I'm going to get rid of that little line right there. We do not want to do the same thing on this top piece right here. Because we cut this thing at 25 inches, we want to make sure that we have the 24 inches on the angle. And so we want to make sure we measure 24 inches really on either side. We're going to just do it on this side just because. And I'm going to grab from the not from the side. If I do it from the side, it's going to give me like a little dot like that. And I guess I could do that if I wanted. But if I wanted to create like a nice full line, see how this one gives me a full line if I grab it not on the corner there. And let's say I want it to be 24 inches. I can type 24, hit enter. And we go all the way up to the top there. We can kind of see that's our line. And so this time we're not going to grab the corner. We're going to grab right there where those things meet. And then we'll grab it straight across. We'll pick it up. We'll do that 10-degree angle. We'll be the same. The one thing with this, you want this thing to be a parallelogram. That means that both angles are the same. It's a tilted rectangle, if you will. It is not a trapezoid. I do not have one coming down and then the other coming the other. I don't have those things meeting. Okay, these lines are parallel with each other. They will never meet, this one and that one. So you kind of do a visual, make sure that we've got a parallelogram as you're doing it. If not, you probably did something wrong. We can go ahead and stop. So we've got this. We want to make sure we grab it right there where it says intersection. Oh, I'm skipping a step here. I got to create an angle. So we're going to go back to our protractor tool. We'll grab right there where it says intersection. We're going to stretch this across. We know that we're straight across and we're not kind of tilted down at an angle because this thing says that we were on the green axis, if you can kind of see that coloration there. So we're going to click there again. We're going to stretch this up in the direction we don't want to go down. This would give us a trapezoid. That would be wrong. We want to go up just like we did before. We're going to type in 10 degrees. We're going to hit enter. I like to erase my tape measure marks when I'm done with them just because they tend to get in my way. It's completely up to you what you want to do. We'll grab that line tool though. Notice how we're not on the corner here. We're not on the corner there. This is kind of where that extra inch just gives us a little extra material. We can do that push pull. Whoop. We can stretch this thing all the way back. And notice now that we've got these away. The eraser tool is E, right, for eraser. Orbit function is O, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea. All right. So that is basically how we get those angles on these legs right here. Now I can, if I really wanted to, and I may probably do this right now. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to triple click this thing. I'm going to show you guys this here. If I double click it, if I double click it, it's going to grab this whole surface area. If I triple click this thing, notice how it highlights everything. This is going to allow me to kind of move this piece around without kind of stretching it. Okay, without adjusting it or grabbing one piece. If I were to just grab like this piece and I were to hit my M button for move, notice how it kind of stretches this stuff out. See how it's kind of joined? I'm not grabbing everything there. Versus if I triple click and then I hit my move button, notice how it'll kind of move everything kind of as a unit. There's another way that we can avoid this, and this is something that you really want to do, is triple click that little project. This is a little leg. We're going to right click and we're going to say make a component. I think I've shown you guys this before, but we'll just kind of reiterate it. I'm just going to say leg. We have 4 legs. We have everything. We're doing this for one thing, and then we're going to be able to put everything together. We don't have to worry about it. My computer wasn't so slow this morning. Okay, there we go. And you'll notice now that we've got this little box that's kind of around this thing, right? If I unclick it and I click once, it brings up everything. So I can take this thing and I can move, and now it's going to just grab everything as once. That's not going to be a problem. We can still edit this piece here, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that this piece is flat. So you can see how it's raised up right here. We want to make this piece flat. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on. And to do this, what we're going to do is take, no, come on. We're going to go up. Come on, mouse. All right, we're going to go up to this little move button right here. And we've got this one that says rotate. So we're going to click on this rotate. This is similar to the protractor, except it's actually going to move something instead of creating a line. So we're going to click on that little corner, make sure that it's red. Okay, that's going to make sure that we have that we're tilting on the red axis. We can grab right up to that little other point right there. And then we can just bring this thing down. Now what we want to do is probably move this thing 10 degrees because that's how much we cut. Sometimes if you had something there, it might snap to it to make sure that it's level. But if we just do this, we do 10 degrees down, that should get us to where we are. Yep, look at that. We're right on that line. That's exactly where we want to be. So now we've got our legs. They're in the orientation that we want. We might just have to move some other legs around, but we got to do a couple things on here first. Now on here, on the top part of this thing, we need to create a tenon. So we need to kind of cut, some of these pieces out. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to create some tape measure lines. I'm going to take T for tape measure. We want this thing to be half the thickness. We want it to be in the center, half the thickness. This is a 3/4 inch board. Half of that thickness is 3/8. This is really the same process that we do in person. We're just doing it on a computer. And then we're not actually cutting it with saws. But we're going to end up doing like 3/16 of an inch. And I'll kind of explain this. Ooh, that's not right. 3/16 of an inch here. We're going to do 3/16 of an inch on this side. And the reason is 3/16 is half of 3/8. What that's going to do is that's going to give us a 3/8 tenon in the middle. So we got to cut half of half the thickness on that side, and half the thickness on that side. That kind of makes no sense whatsoever. But we end up with 3/8 of an inch right in the middle. You can kind of see that right there. And that's what we're looking for, right? We don't want to measure 3/8 on one side and then just kind of cut it in half. We want this thing to be in the center. The other thing we want to do is these things, we want to be in a half of an inch. So we're going to go 0.5. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to go 0.5. And then this little portion right here is now where our tenon is going to be. There's a couple of things that we've got to do. We've got those marks there. What we need to do is we need to measure down. This thing has to sit inside of a piece of another board. Those boards are 3/4 of an inch thick. So we want to actually make this little measurement line come down, straight down, not on the angle. This is straight down. This is why it's important to kind of orient this thing the right way. We're going to go down 3/4 of an inch right there. And then all we've basically got to do on this thing is sit here, take my line. Where's that? We'll go. Actually, you know what? This might be easier right here. Let's take a tape measure tool here. Oh, no, I can't do that. That's going to bring me on the angle. Okay. Orient yourself the right way. See how it says that intersection, that top piece there. We're going to stay on that blue line there. We're going to stay straight down. It says online. We're going to click right there. And we're going to click right there. We're going to hit escape to get out of that. Oh, wait. You know what I'm doing here? I am not drawing on my actual project. Notice if I triple click this, see how that doesn't like come into it? So if you make something a component, happy little accident right there. What we're going to do is we're just going to delete those lines there. We can double click double click this thing. Notice how this box goes in. And now I can kind of click each individual piece. I'm inside of this component. Okay. And so I can now edit these. Even though my tape measure mark's on the outside, I can still connect those things where it says intersection. I can still make sure that I am straight down on my blue axis. I can click there. I'm going to do the same thing. Now what this is going to notice how that line doesn't extend out. It kind of ends that line there. That's exactly what we're looking for. We want to go on that intersection. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Click there, draw that stuff out. We'll do the same thing on the other side, but while we're right here, what we're going to do is we're going to do this push-pull. And what we want to do is go to that little line right there. That's that 3/16 line. You could take this thing and you could push in that direction and type 3/16 if you want to. That's going to cut out that stuff. Actually, you know what? What am I thinking? We just want that whole piece gone. So we're just going to push those things back. Make my life a lot easier. There we go. So the only other thing right here, this is where that 3/16 comes in. We want to cut out this little chunk right here. So we've got those chunks cut out. We want that chunk. So what we're going to do here is we're going to draw a line on that side, and then we can take our push pull. Notice how now it selects this. If we don't do that line, notice how it'll select everything here. So we want to make sure we have that line there so we only select that. I did Control Z and Control Y right there. But if we click on this thing, right, we can stretch this in that direction. We can type in 3/16 of an inch. It's going to should be right on that line. You can also just kind of stretch it to that line. But we'll do the same thing on this side. We'll draw a line across. Boom, 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 push, pull button. And we could just select it, click it on that line. We know that's 3/8 of an inch. So now we've got that piece right there. Don't worry about those lines there. That's okay. The only thing that we need to do on this leg now at this point is to get this little notch. I can show you this. Is to get this little notch out of here. And this notch is 9 inches straight up, right? From the very bottom, it's 9 inches. And then we've got to fit a board here. We've got to go 3/4 of an inch in on that bottom. So we're just going to do that same kind of process on this next piece here. Come on, computer. Why are you running so slow for me? I even got rid of a bunch of stuff. Still doesn't want to work with me. Okay. There we go. Okay. So we've got this piece, right? And notice how that axis looks like it's off. But if I click right here, now we're back to our normal view. That axis isn't off. We're not concerned with that. We want to be inside this project here. There we go. We got this little dotted line. That's how you know you're inside of it. We're going to take that tape measure. We're going to measure this thing straight up vertically. We're going to measure it up 9 inches. You can see we're right along that side, right? That's exactly what we want to do. And then right here, as it sits, what we're trying to do with this thing is basically cut a little notch out. And so we can just kind of take our little line tool. We can draw this line here. Our paper said that we need to be 3/4 of an inch in depth there. We need to, I don't want to be on this blue axis here. That's going to be, I don't want to be on that same angle there. We're going to take this thing out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line that's straight up. See how I'm out of here? I'm not going to draw, this one's not actually drawing on the project, but it's going to give me a reference line. Actually, you know what I can do? Take a tape measure. There we go. Take a tape measure line. We're going to mark it up 3/4 of an inch. Because I'm outside, it's making sure that it's, you know, my axis is there. My axis is tilted on this other piece here. Spacebar gets you back to the selection tool, by the way. So notice now I'm back in the project. I've got that dotted line. I'm going to take my line out. I'm going to draw this line up. Why do I go 3/4 of an inch? Okay, I go 3/4 of an inch because that's how thick the boards are. And then all I want to do, if you kind of see these little, come on. I don't want that green axis there. That's kind of pulling it, you know, towards me. Where do those purple, I want those purple lines to come back. that is not going to be what we want. All right. Having a little issues. Let's make sure. We can just take a tape measure line. As I say, those purple axes are basically like perpendicular to things. So we're just going to make a little measurement mark right here. Give us a mark to go across. Yeah, you kind of see that right there, hopefully. Those purple lines that came up. Okay. That little tape measure line, make sure that this is level. All right, those two lines are parallel. We've got that little notch there. We've got that thing cut out. All we've got to do is just take that push-pull button. We can stretch that stuff out. I'm going to erase my lines there because I don't need those things anymore. And I'm also going to do the same thing on the top. I don't need these lines, so I'm just going to erase those things all there. One more. All right, so that right there is our leg. That's what we have. I don't know why the on edge is staying up on top there. But that's our leg. We've done one of them. We can now duplicate this thing. To do that, you can take, click on it, go Control C, then Control V, and you'll get another one that pops up. You can do it again, hit Control V again, and Control V one more time, and now you've got these 4 legs. The only thing you'll need to do with these legs is you'll need to kind of orient these things opposite of each other. Obviously, one of them needs to be a 90 degree from each other. So, and then the other two need to be, one of them needs to be 180 and the other two need to be 90. And we could do that by doing the little rotate tool that we did before. If I want to click this one right here and I want to make this one 180, so make that opposite, all I got to do is click my rotate tool. Doesn't really matter where I click on this one, but click somewhere on the project, click on that red axis. If I want to go 180, I can just flip it around. You'll notice 180 is at the very bottom right-hand corner. You can also type in 180, and that was going to give you the same dimensions too. We can take these things and we can kind of move these things out. We'll do the same thing with these pieces. We'll get them oriented in the right spot. Maybe we'll kind of move this one somewhere right there for right now. So we'll select this one. We're going to do that rotate tool again. I don't know what the thing is. On this one, we're going to go 90 degrees. So we're going to make sure we're on that green axis. Boom, 90 degrees. We'll move this thing. These little notches on the inside, what's important to note with these things is that they have to be, what's the word? Inside. They have to be facing each other. Okay, we'll select this last one. We're going to do our rotate tool is Q, by the way, for our shorthand. So we're going to click that there. On this one, I'm not going to go down. See how it's going to put that thing in the opposite direction? I'm going to go up on the green axis there. And now that gives us that piece right there. So now we've got the kind of 4 pieces. They're sort of kind of where they need to be, but we need to have another reference point. And that reference point is going to be our top step right there, or our little, let me see, I'll pull this thing in here. So that piece right there. And then we got to have these notches, and we've got those things there. Again, I'm not worried about the measurements, but we're going to get our overall length and width. Then we're going to use this one to actually just take those little tenons we created, and we're just going to line all those pieces up. That's going to be pretty easy for us to do because these things like to snap to it. So I'm just going to kind of take this. I'm going to go like kind of an overhead view, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It's probably going to be down low, but I'm not that worried about it. Let me get my piece back here so that way I know. Oh, did I close something out? Do not close that out. That would be bad. All right, so we're going to draw a rectangle. On this rectangle, it needs to be 6 space 9/16, and it is a square. So we're going to do the same thing. We've got our little square right here. On this one, I'm probably going to leave this thing flat in this, at this time right now, because it's going to make life a little bit easier. I'm going to do kind of all my layout stuff, and I'm going to take off a 1/2 inch on the corners. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to make these measurement marks on either side. This kind of is the same process that we would do. I'm going to draw my lines right here because I'm going to get rid of that little corner right there. Same thing there. Notice I'm on the intersections. I know I'm going quick, but it's the same stuff that we've seen. From this line here, we want to stretch this. Notice how it's, see how that turns purple, right? Right there. That means we're perpendicular with it. We're not like, you know, at a different angle. That's what we want to be. We want to be, you know, parallel with that little angle. We're going to come in 5/8 of an inch. We'll do the same thing here. You'll notice with these things that sometimes you end up having like a lot of lines that's on there. We could theoretically erase, and this is why I do this very often. I erase some of these lines that we don't need. Okay, we've made that mark. We've got our thing. We don't need these things anymore. Okay, you can always go back to it and draw that line back in. We're going to be 5/8 of an inch. From here, we want to be lengthwise 1 5/8. So we'll do the same thing on all of these sides here, making sure that we hit that purple where we're parallel. See how that made a line? If it makes a line, Control Z it, try to get there we go. Now we're stretched out there. Just redo it. I have no idea why that does that, why this program does that at all. I'll grab off on the side there. But sometimes you just grab another one and you're good to go. Just redo it until you get the results you want. So we've got quite a bit going on here. This is going to be the start. This is going to be where our tenon is going to be. The other thing that we need to do is we want to find the center of this thing. So we're going to do the center there. And we're going to do the center there. Now we just created a little checkered pattern, you know, on here, but there's some important things. The tenon that we put in here is 3/8 of an inch thick. So just like we did before, make sure we're parallel. We're going to do 3/16 on either side. And all these measurement stuff is going to make sense in just a second. A lot of this we kind of go through and we explain in the video. So we want these centerpieces there. We're going to go 3/16 on either side. We only need to do this really twice. Oh. Grabbing from that center one, 3/16. From the center one here, 3/16. And you've got all these things. We've got all these marks here. Most of these we don't need right now, but what we're going to do is we're just going to leave them. We're going to grab a rectangle tool, and all we're going to do is, oh man, that's not going to work. Okay, because we're oriented in the wrong position right now. It's not going to let us. But we can take our line tool and we can just kind of draw a line. This is a way to get a rectangle, kind of where we want. You can see how that kind of clicked there. We'll do this one. Boom, boom. So it's a little bit of layout for these things, but now that we've got all these marks, we're essentially just making those little notches there. This is a little bit easier in the computer than it is actually in person. I can take my selection tool, right? Actually, let me take my eraser. I'm going to erase all these lines because I don't need these lines anymore. Right? And I'm going to erase these two outside lines because I don't need those. And then I'm going to take my selection tool. I'm going to select the center of these things. I'm going to delete them. And at this point, because I've done all my layout now and everything, I've got that piece. I just got to make that 3-dimensional. So I can hit my push pull. I can stretch this thing up. I can hit 3/4 of an inch. And then I am good to go. So the only thing that needs to happen now is we need to essentially just get that piece on top, get all those tenons that are right there lined up underneath here. So probably what the best thing to do would be to, well, first we need to make this thing a component. So we'll say top brace. How about that? What you label it as doesn't really matter. We're going to move this thing up. No, we're going to move, hit M, and we're going to move this thing. Make sure we're on that blue axis there. We know these feet are 2 feet, so we're just going to kind of hit 24 inches. That's going to give us, you know, about that right stuff there. Now you can, well, let me move these things in here. If you want to grab these things, you can move. And if you grab one of these tenons, you grab one of these top corners right there. We are oriented wrong a little bit right here. So let me do this. Notice how those things don't line up. These ones are kind of parallel with each other. We want these things to be that way. And so I think we need to turn that 90 degrees. So we're simply just going to grab, doesn't matter, we can try to grab the center if we want. And we want this thing to rotate 45 degrees, not 90. 45-degree tilt. Okay, cool. That'll be there. Now let's grab this thing. I don't want to grab two of them. Grab that little inside corner, and if you kind of go to here, if you click right there, it puts that right in that center there. That does what we need it to do. We'll do the same thing. We're going to grab this one. We can grab this corner. It's going to be right there on that inside. You got to make sure you select the next one. So hit that space bar and select it. And we can grab those. Notice how they just kind of match up really easily. And then all we're going to do, oh, see how I didn't click it? See how I'm moving that other piece there? Got to make sure you click on that one that you want. And then we can orient those things there. So you can kind of see that we've got, you know, that top thing. We've got those legs that are now, you know, in the place. We've got to do this bottom brace right in here. And then we've got to do the top seat, which is, you know, shouldn't be that difficult to do that top seat. The components are important on these things. They're important to do that. That top seat's just going to basically sit, you know, on the top. There are screws that go in there. You don't need to put the screws, you know, in this thing at all. The last thing I think that I want to show you, and if you guys have any questions, we can go from there, is the coloration. So we can use this little paint bucket here. And on here, if you make sure you're on that search, if you're on the home, sometimes you see some pieces, maybe just some colors or whatever. But if you go to this little search function here, you can find all sorts of different materials, right? Asphalt, concrete, brick, cladding, right? You can do just colors, glass, mirrors, landscaping stuff. We're going to go down to the woodworking or the wood. And then you got different colors of wood and different styles. We can pick these things on my project. Notice how I'm painting the whole thing because they're a component. It paints the whole thing. If I don't have that as a component, let's say it's like I'm clicking like I'm on the inside here, it's only going to click and it's only going to paint one side right there. But notice when I'm inside of that, see how it changes all of them? They're all painted now. But it's easy to do this. Click, right, paint, paint, paint. All of them are painted now. The whole thing, all up and down. We can get those colors. On mine, I kind of did like an opposite color. So I did some ones that are a little bit different. And the only reason I did that in the diagram is just to demonstrate the differences. So that way they pop on, you know, the actual paper, especially when I print these things off, I print them and they're black and white. So, you know, sometimes it's a little bit hard to distinguish. So I kind of made them different colors, but you theoretically could just make them the same color. And then you've got this nice three-dimensional design. Again, we've got the top, we've got those things, but I think I've kind of shown you guys enough that you should be able to kind of figure out the rest of that stuff on your own. What questions do you guys have about this Google SketchUp and stuff? I hope that this is something, I know I offered it as extra credit, but I hope that this is something that you guys feel like you know, are able to do. And you can kind of look at this thing, you can watch this video, you can build these projects because, you know, it is a good tool. It is a good thing. And you can use this, not just mechanics teachers, but, you know, plant science, if you're landscaping, if you're designing, if you're working with animal units and you want to design something, this is a really cool tool to be able to design, you know, different areas and different things and really kind of, you know, even like giving it the color and giving it the pop. You saw the asphalt colors, you saw those, you can put roads in, you can put all that stuff. And it's a good way to, you know, visualize a concept, you know, before you actually build it. And the nice thing with these, and this is kind of one of the things that I do, you know, with students is we always have them design stuff before, at least, you know, I did, you know, when we're building like big projects, I wanted them to design something. If that's just like sketching it on a piece of paper and getting kind of that thought process down, or if it's using a Google SketchUp, it really helps you build that concept and see what kind of errors, what kind of mistakes, what kind of things can come in before you actually build those things. And that minimizes the loss of materials, and it makes sure that you can, you know, you can get like you just get the kinks out of the way as you're building. So it makes life, a lot easier because you've done it, you've built it. A lot of the things, a lot of the layout is the same layout that we would do in person. We're just doing it on a computer. And it's nice because if we make errors here, they're a lot easier to change than they are if we make an error on an actual project. And it happens. I make errors. Everybody does it. Everybody has issues with those things. But we want to try to minimize that as much as possible. So if you guys don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to end the recording here.